Hi there, my name is Sarah. I'm with the Health Food Shop on North Anthony. We've been working on ways to help people get balanced nutrition back into their weekday routines. One vegetable that is overlooked is squash. And I know it can be hard to prepare, it can be hard to peel and cut, but the easiest squash to work with is spaghetti squash, and it's so nutritious. We thought it was worth looking into to find an easy way for folks to get squash back into the diet. Now this may be the easiest spaghetti squash recipe of them all. It's crock pot spaghetti squash. We're going to start with one whole spaghetti squash. You want to make sure you wash it first. Now this is just going to take one cut right through the middle. Make sure you get a large chef's knife and you're working on a balanced surface. You might have to just crack this once on the counter. Give it a good push. And you have the inside of the spaghetti squash. The only real thing we want to do to this now is scrape out the seeds and the membrane. A regular spoon will work, and you want to use the edge to cut around there. Now squash is a overlooked vegetable because it can be hard to handle. Sometimes you have to peel them, sometimes you have to dice them. All of that can be tough and time consuming. But spaghetti squash is the easiest of them all to prepare, and this is the easiest spaghetti squash recipe of them all, I think. Once you get the membranes out of there, you might have to just really put a little elbow grease in there. The inside of it, it's just going to hollow out just like that. I'm going to do the other half here. Once again, just using the side of the spoon to cut through there. Now this is the hardest part, and I promise you the end result is going to be worth it. Okay, so I've dug out the seeds and the majority of the membrane, and that's really all there is to do. And in this crock pot, we have the meal already done, but just so you know what we did, so simple, we placed the squash cut side down in the crock pot and added 1 jar of tomato sauce. You could use any sauce that you like, and you could even use your own sauce. So now that we have one ready, I'm going to scoot that off to the side, grab a plate here. If you look at crock pot spaghetti squash recipes online, there's such a variation in cooking times. So what we wanted to do was really do some tests to find the best cooking time so that the squash wasn't overdone. The one downfall of this recipe is you could overcook the squash. So we did some thorough investigation and found that 2.5 hours on high in a crock pot will make your spaghetti squash tender and delicious, but not overcooked. You want to be really careful when you take them out of the crock pot because they're very heavy and hot, and 2 spoons sometimes is the key to doing that. Roll it onto the one spoon and hold it with this spoon. Make sure you're not touching it. Don't burn yourself. Now I want to show you something here with the fork before we get started. If you're wondering if your squash is ready, use a fork in here on the squash, and if you can put your fork in there and it starts to shred like pasta, you know you've got a perfectly cooked spaghetti squash. So we're going to take this larger size here and shred this out onto the plate, like so. Again, it may be hot, so be careful. This is coming apart really beautifully, and you can see that it's not mushy and it's not soggy. It is really, really well cooked. Spaghetti squash is a low-carb vegetable, and it really replaces pasta very well. It has a similar texture. So if you're trying to get the pasta out and the veggies in, spaghetti squash is the way to go. We've got a nice little pile of squash there. I'm going to put some sauce on top. There are so many variations of this recipe. You could put Italian sausage in your crock pot. You could put meatballs in your crock pot, chicken chunks. You could do veggie sausages in your crock pot. The sauce is ready to go. I would like a little olive oil on here as well. I'm going to do a little cracked black pepper. And that is a healthy meal ready to eat.